All right. Want to dive into some ways to get better at speaking English. You've given us a pretty interesting mix of stuff to look at for this deep dive.
Yeah, it's a really good mix.
Classic advice from like Gero Education and top universities.
Hmm.
Tips from language learning platforms,
Yeah.
the usual suspects like Reply,
Yeah.
and even
Those are
some
some
raw insights from
Reddit
yeah,
threads.
yeah, other learners just like you on Reddit. It's
And
like we've formed our own little brainstorming group.
it's a really good selection of sources because they go kind of beyond the traditional focus on just grammar and vocabulary.
Right.
They're really putting a lot of emphasis on making the practice engaging and fun
Oh, yeah.
and also leveraging technology.
It's almost like a whole new way to think about it. Right?
Yeah.
It's like, ugh, I got to study English.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I can find ways to like work this into my life.
Yeah.
And that Reddit thread you sent me, pure gold.
Oh, it's great.
It's so fun to hear people talk about what they've struggled with and like how they've actually gotten better.
It really humanizes the whole process.
Totally.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
And speaking of the journey, one thing that really comes through in a lot of these sources
Yeah.
is the importance of practice,
Of course. Yeah.
but like a fun twist on it, not
Mhm.
just,
Yeah.
drill.
Right, exactly. Like top universities,
Yeah.
they actually emphasize immersing yourself, like watching movies,
Yeah.
listening to English language news. And they say that helps you just internalize the rhythms of the language, the pattern.
So you start to just hear how it's supposed to sound.
Right. And it helps you pick up on the nuances.
Yeah.
So you're not just focusing on like individual words.
Yeah.
But you're hearing how they all fit together,
Yeah.
you know.
It's fascinating. And Gero Education takes a similar approach, but they come at it from like a social angle.
Okay.
They really highlight finding someone supportive
Mm-hmm.
to practice with
Yeah.
and really like minimizing the negativity
Yeah.
in your learning environment,
And that's huge.
which is, I mean, think about it. If you're constantly feeling like you're messing up
Right.
or
It's not going to be fun.
you're not going to want to do it, right? You're going to be like, why am I even bothering?
Totally.
Which kind of goes back to this idea that Patel was talking about,
Okay.
having like a strong reason
Yeah.
for doing this,
Right.
a why. Like
Oh, why? Why are you learning English?
why am I doing this? Yeah. What am I going to get out of this?
Yeah.
And if you can really answer that,
Right.
and it's something that motivates you,
Right.
then it's less about like, I got to study English. It's more about like, I'm doing this to achieve this goal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you have that fire in your belly.
It does. It gives you that extra push.
Yeah.
And then speaking of trying new things, let's go into technology, right?
Uh-huh. Right, right. Yeah, because they all had interesting things to say about that. They're not just talking about, basic language apps
Right.
like Preply.
Right.
They suggest using technology to record yourself
Oh, yeah.
speaking
Yeah.
to kind of critique yourself
Yeah.
and see how you're doing with your pronunciation and fluency.
Uh-huh.
And they also, of course, advocate for getting feedback from tutors, online tutors, which is so much easier now.
Oh, my gosh, yes. And the Reddit thread, that's where you get all the app recommendations.
Yeah,
That's awesome. They love Elsa,
Elsa, yeah.
which uses AI to give you like super specific feedback
Oh, wow.
on your pronunciation,
Okay.
especially for American English. It's like having, a pronunciation coach
Yeah.
right there in your pocket.
Right in your pocket.
And then another one they talked about was shadowing, shadowing native speakers.
Shadowing, yeah.
Using an app called Learn to Speak English.
So with shadowing, you're listening to a native speaker, and then you're basically trying to
Copy.
copy
Yeah.
their pronunciation
Oh.
and intonation as closely as you can.
Like a copycat.
Yeah, exactly. And it really helps train your ear
Right.
to recognize those subtleties.
Yeah.
And it also helps develop muscle memory
Oh, that's cool.
for producing the sounds.
It's like exercise. And then there's Andy. Andy's a chatbot.
Oh,
Available 24/7
wow.
for English conversation practice.
Oh.
So if you're like, oh, it's 2 a.m, I want to practice English,
There you go.
Andy's there for you. It's incredible.
That is really cool. It's
And,
amazing.
I mean, it's really cool what you can do now with technology.
It's really amazing.
Yeah.
But in all the excitement about all these apps and stuff,
Yeah.
there's a really crucial reminder that top universities gives.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. You're like, don't just get caught up in like knowing a lot of words.
Right.
Like, it's not about just, having a big vocabulary.
Exactly. It's not just about the quantity. It's about using the words, right?
Using the words.
Correctly.
Using them accurately and effectively.
Appropriately.
Yeah. Appropriately.
It's like
Like having all the tools, but not knowing how to use them.
yes, or like cooking, You can have all these ingredients, but if you don't know how to combine them,
Right.
you're not going to end up with a good meal.
Right.
And Gero Education, they made a really good point about that too.
Okay.
They were advocating for just like clear, simple communication. Don't try to, impress people with big words.
Right.
Just get your point across.
Yeah. Keep it simple.
Which I thought was really interesting coming from them because they're, all about business.
Right.
Professional development.
Exactly.
And which I think connects really well with what Preply said about taking time to like reflect on your conversations.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
And
so they're like, take some time, think about what went well, what could have been better. What did I struggle with? What did I, what were my strengths?
like debrief yourself a little bit.
Yeah, it's like a debrief. It's like, okay, that conversation, what happened?
Right.
And it helps you
So you can learn from it.
learn, what do I need to work on?
Right.
What am I doing well?
Yeah.
It's almost like having your own
Internal coach.
Yeah, your own internal coach. And then EF Go Blog takes that a step further. Like, really connect your language learning to like a deeper purpose.
Yeah.
They're like, if you have this strong reason why you're doing this that you're emotionally connected to, it's so much easier to stay motivated to keep going. And then, Gero Education again, they talk about, not just the words.
Yeah.
Right. They talk about nonverbal communication.
Right.
And they say that, to be a really effective communicator, it's not just the words you say.
Right.
It's your
Body language.
Facial
expressions.
your tone of voice, everything.
Everything plays a role.
Matters.
It's a whole package.
It's like this whole other language, right, that we don't even think about.
Yeah, exactly.
And Preply adds another layer to that. They're like, okay, it's not just about speaking. It's about listening.
Yes. Oh, listening is so important.
So important.
And not just hearing the words.
Yeah.
But actually
actively listening.
Yes, actively engaging. With the speaker.
Really paying attention to what they're trying to
get across.
Yeah. And they suggest like asking clarifying questions. Maybe even summarizing what you've heard.
To make sure you understand.
Yeah. To make sure they know you understand. Even like nodding your head or making eye contact.
Yeah.
Just to show that you're
present.
You're present.
You're in the conversation.
And you're listening.
You're not just waiting for your turn to speak.
You're not just waiting to talk. Yeah. And it made me think, sometimes when we struggle with speaking, maybe it's because we're not really fully present.
That's an interesting point.
As listeners,
Yeah, it's a good point. It's like you can't
we're not really
have one without the other.
Really listening.
They really go together.
They do.
Yeah.
So we've talked about a lot, fun practice, using technology, having a strong reason why you're doing this. The nonverbal cues.
The nonverbal cues.
The listening. It feels like we're kind of putting together like this whole approach.
It's like a holistic view of communication.
Yeah, a holistic approach to like really
becoming a confident speaker.
Yeah. But let's go back to the Reddit thread for a sec.
Okay.
Because a lot of people there talked about this feeling of being stuck.
Yeah.
Like they know the words, but they can't speak.
Right.
And I thought that was really interesting.
It's a really common experience.
Yeah. Like that gap between, okay, I know the rules.
Right.
I recognize the words.
Yeah.
But then
when it comes to actually speaking,
you freeze.
It's up.
I can't get it out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That gap between passive knowledge and active fluency.
Yeah. And they were saying things like, oh, it's, I'm afraid to make a mistake. Or, I just don't have enough opportunities to actually practice speaking.
Right.
Like, I don't know where to go to practice speaking.
Yeah.
So how do you bridge that gap? How do you go from like, okay, I know it in my head.
Yeah, that's the big question. How do you go from that passive knowledge to actually speaking it?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, first of all, you have to acknowledge that it's completely normal. Like almost everyone goes through that to some extent. It's part of the process. And the key is to just keep practicing. find ways to kind of push yourself outside of that comfort zone a little bit.
Yeah. That's where these sources are so good. Like Gero Education. Like start small.
Yeah.
Like don't worry about speaking these long, complicated sentences.
So short sentences.
Be confident in those short sentences.
Right.
And build from there.
Exactly. You build a muscle. You start with the lighter weights.
And reply. Reply is like, remember your why.
Yes. Why are you doing this?
If you have that strong reason, you're more likely to like push through those scary moments.
Yeah. Because you know why you're doing it.
Because you know.
It's important to you.
Yeah, why you're doing it.
Yeah.
And don't forget positive self-talk.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, that's huge.
Instead of, oh, I messed that up. It's like, no, I did that well.
Yeah. Celebrate the wins.
Yeah. Celebrate the small wins. I said that sentence.
Exactly.
Correctly, Or, I was able to.
Yeah. Whatever it is.
Whatever, just anything. Any little
victory.
Victory, right.
Yeah.
And that's like what Gero Education was saying too.
Right.
Like find those supportive people.
Yeah. Create that positive environment for yourself.
Yeah. Surround yourself with people who are going to lift you up.
And be nice to yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. It all ties back to that mindset.
It does, doesn't it? Like if you believe in yourself and you approach it.
And you make it fun.
You're going to get better.
You're going to enjoy it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like this combination of, the practice, the right mindset.
Having a good attitude.
Having the right people around you.
Yeah.
That's going to help you break through.
And speaking of breaking through, let's talk about this idea that came up.
Okay.
That learning English is about more than just speaking.
Oh, yeah. It's about so much more than that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's about becoming a really effective communicator.
Like we're changing how we think of fluent.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's not just about...
It's not just about like grammar and pronunciation.
Right.
It's about like being able to connect with people.
Yeah. Express yourself.
And like navigate
different communication
styles. Yeah. It's a much bigger picture.
It's amazing how they really highlight that communication's so much more than just the words, right?
Absolutely.
We talked about having that partner, embracing being silly, but Gero Education's thing about nonverbal communication.
Oh, yeah.
That was really interesting.
Yeah.
They say that your body language, facial expressions, even your tone of voice can really change how your message is received. Huge. Yeah, it's like there's this like secret language that everyone's speaking, even when they're not saying anything. You think about like a raised eyebrow or, changing your posture can totally change what you're saying, the meaning of what you're saying.
Oh, totally. I know sometimes I've been in conversations that I can just like feel there's this disconnect between their words and like their body.
Right.
And it makes you wonder, well, what are they really thinking?
Yeah, exactly. And I think if you're learning English, you really have to pay attention to that.
Oh, my bad.
Not just how you're coming across to other people, but how to read other people.
Right. Yeah. It's like a whole other layer.
It's like you have to become like a cultural detective.
Totally.
I don't know.
Which is where Pripley's thing about active listening.
Yes, active listening.
Comes in, right. It's like, it's not just about hearing.
It's not just about hearing the words.
The words, yeah.
You've got to really engage with whoever's talking.
Pay attention to how they're saying it, their facial expressions. Really try to understand what's underneath.
Like, what are they really...
What's the message behind the words?
Yeah, what's the message behind the words? What's the, the real message they're trying to give? And they had some good suggestions, right? Like...
Yeah, like asking questions.
Yeah, to make sure you understand.
Like clarifying questions.
Clarifying, yeah.
And maybe even summarizing what you've heard.
Right.
So that they know you understand.
Even like nodding your head, making eye contact.
Yeah.
Just showing that you're present.
Being present in the moment.
You're actually listening. You're not just waiting for your turn to talk.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's easy to forget about that.
Yeah.
When you're trying to learn a language, you're so focused on,
the grammar.
The pronunciation.
The vocab, the words. That you forget, communication is about connecting with another human.
Oh, that's a good point.
You know?
Yeah. And I think that goes back to what those Reddit people were saying about feeling stuck.
Yeah. Maybe part of it is just not feeling comfortable enough to
to
Yeah.
be yourself, you know?
To really express yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's not just about, mastering the language,
Right.
but also having the confidence to actually use it.
To use it.
To connect with someone. Yeah.
So how do we bridge that gap?
That's the question.
We talked about, the supportive partner, the positive environment, the why.
The why, yeah.
But what can we actually do?
Well, Juror Education had some good advice. They said, start small.
Oh, yeah. Start small.
Don't worry about, being perfect or using big fancy words.
Mm-hmm.
Just focus on saying short, clear sentences.
Yeah.
Even if it seems too simple. It's all about building confidence.
Right.
And fluency gradually.
Yeah. It's like, if you're building something, you got to lay the foundation.
One brick at a time.
One brick at a time.
Right.
You can't just build the whole thing at once. And then Prepoli was talking about recording yourself.
Oh, yeah. That can be really helpful.
Yeah, it's kind of scary.
It can be scary, yeah. But it's a really good way to see, how you're actually doing and identify, what you need to work on.
It's like having that mirror.
Yeah.
To see, okay, how am I really...
To hear yourself.
How am I really doing?
Yeah.
And then, of course, top universities, they were all about...
Immersion. Yeah, immerse yourself.
Immersion.
Yeah.
Surround yourself with English.
Movies, music, podcasts.
Even changing the language on your phone.
Yeah. Anything you can do to just kind of be around it.
Right, so it just kind of seeps in.
Yeah. It's like passive learning.
Yeah, you're learning without even...
Yeah. You're not really trying.
Trying, yeah.
But you're absorbing it.
And the good thing is, now with technology, you can do that so easily.
Yeah.
You have the world of English.
Right there in your...
Right there.
Yeah, pocket.
Yeah, in your pocket. So the key is to make it enjoyable.
Make it fun.
Make it fun, yeah. Because if you're having fun...
You'll stick with it.
You're going to stick with it.
Yeah.
And the more you do it,
yeah,
the better you get.
Yeah. And the less stuck you feel.
Yeah. So to kind of sum it up,
yeah,
it's this whole journey of self-discovery.
It really is.
Embracing the challenge, finding the tools that work for you.
Having a positive mindset.
Having a positive mindset.
Yeah.
And knowing that effective communication.
Yeah.
It's about so much more than
words.
It's about
body language.
Tone of voice.
Active listening.
Yeah.
It's about connecting with people.
And it's a journey that's worth it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
It really does feel like we've gone deep into how to communicate well with this deep dive. It's not just about nailing English grammar or sounding perfect, you know what I mean?
It's like we've uncovered all these layers of how we communicate as humans. It's pretty fascinating. And I think if you really understand this stuff, it can help you become a better communicator overall.
I love that. So for everyone listening, what are the main things that really stick with you from all this? What feels like, aha, this is it, or this is what I want to try?
Maybe it's that thing we talked about, changing how you think about learning English. It's not just about rules and memorizing. It's discovering yourself through the language.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Or maybe it's realizing how important body language and all those nonverbal cues are.
Right.
They can say so much without you even opening your mouth.
It could even be something as simple as remembering to have fun with it.
Oh, yeah. We talked about EF Go blog and how they said to just embrace being silly, play with the language.
It's true. Sometimes you just got to let go of that fear of messing up.
Totally. And remember what Prepoli said about finding your why. Why are you doing this? What's your big reason?
I really like that.
It makes such a difference when you're truly passionate about something.
And for those of you who felt connected to those Reddit stories, the ones about feeling stuck, even though you know the words, you're not alone in that. It happens to a lot of people. We talked about a bunch of ways to get past that. What felt most helpful to you? Was it starting small, like Juro Education suggested? Or maybe recording yourself, like Prepoli said.
Top universities really emphasized immersing yourself in English, surrounding yourself with it in ways that you actually enjoy. The cool thing is, you can choose the methods that feel right for you, that really speak to you.
That's the best part.
Create your own unique path to fluency.
Exactly. So the message we want to leave you with today is you've got tons of knowledge and tips now. The next step is to actually do something with it. Experiment. Find what works best for you and enjoy the process.
Remember, every little step you take, no matter how small, it's all progress. Celebrate your wins, don't be afraid of challenges, and always remember your big why, the reason you started this journey in the first place.
We really hope this deep dive has given you some inspiration and made you feel like you can do this. Until next time, keep practicing.